Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today on Veterans Day, I have a fantastic guest. She is a United States Army veteran, a former captain in the Army. She's a doctor of veterinary medicine. She's a local leader in our business community through public service, and just one of the nicest women you ever will meet. She's also my neighbor there on South 8th Street, where she lives next door to her mom and dad. Without further ado, Dr. Kathleen Elstrott Achord. Dr. Kathleen, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making time for us today. I know you've been busy. You've been across the lake and back, and you're very busy with professional practices and much more. Anyway, it's just a pleasure to have you here today. Before we dig into the many topics that I'm hoping we talk about, why don't we just begin with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm from Ponchatoula. I grew up down, on 8th Street and went to all the little public schools and then St. Joseph and then Ponchatoula High for a little while. And then I moved away for the end of high school and LSU and then the Army. And then something about Ponchatoula just makes you want to come home, I guess. So.
It calls you home. I can relate. I went away for a few years, first college and then working in the government. And eventually it was just, I had to be home.
Yep.
Well, your parents are a couple of the nicest people in town. I love being neighbors. As I mentioned to you before the show, I saw your dad today at Rotary. He's done a great job serving us as Rotary president. They're just really well known in our community. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your parents and what it was like to be their daughter there on South 8th Street?
It was pretty perfect. Only child, spoiled rotten. They're great. They are both from New Orleans, actually, area. I don't know if most people know this. And they both ended up at Southeastern. And basically, my dad needed help studying, and my mom helped him, and the rest is history. And they tried moving back down to New Orleans and didn't like it, moved back up here and bought the house that I grew up in, I think over like 40 years ago. So.
Yes, I was going to think, certainly as long as I can recall. I'm 44, but that was always their home, growing up and now.
Yeah.
So they have been there basically your entire life, right?
Yeah, and several years before I even existed. Yes. So.
Okay. So it's interesting to me to hear that they're from the city, because with you living next door, I guess I just always assumed that was family property, and you are, it's kind of wasn't, because a lot of our street is kind of like that, right? There's the Avenues and the Burris house and the Pearson house. It's one of the older strips in Ponchatoula, if you will, really on both sides. So that's interesting. So what was it like being you said spoiled, rotten, only child? What'd you do for fun? Because as the son, one of 4 boys, I grew up scrapping with 3 siblings, and it was a different experience. What was it like being an only child?
I liked it. I never wanted a sibling or anything, I guess. Never asked for that. I think I always asked for more kittens or dogs. So that's what I.
Well, you definitely got your wish there. I'm looking forward to talking about cat vet and kittens and all that you do in the animal world. Did the love for animals start, in the crib? I mean, is that a lifelong obsession?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, the cats slept in the crib with me, I'm told, and then I used to take naps on the floor with the dog, Lucy. She was adopted from the LASPCA. My parents adopted her together. It was like her last day, or some nice sad story like that. And so she was jumping really high, and they took her home.
Very cool. I want to share with you and our viewers here. Our first comment has come in. Amanda Achord is it Richard? Says hi, cat vet. I assume is that an in-law, a family member there?
Yeah, she's technically my niece, my husband's
niece.
Yeah, but we're the same age.
Amanda, thank you for tuning in. We sure appreciate you making a comment here. And to the rest of our viewers, as you can see, folks, we have the ability to bring your comment up live during the show. We ask you to please keep it positive, of course. I know you would anyway. But if you have a question for Dr. Achord. If you want to ask her about anything, feel free to post your question below. We will do our best to bring it up. Or if you just want to say something nice, as Amanda did here. So, Amanda, thank you for tuning in. And to anyone else, if you have a comment, feel free to bring it. We're here with Dr. Kathleen Elstrott Achord, local doctor of veterinary medicine, founder of Cat Vet, wonderful person. But right now, we're just kind of talking about her childhood, growing up on 8th Street in Ponchatoula. You mentioned all the schools, that you went to. Could you tell us a little bit about people that were influences on you during your education before you went off to college and whatnot? Teachers, coaches, et cetera, mentors. It could be friends, teachers, whatever. But who are some of the people that come back to your memory when you think about the good old days of school in Ponchatoula?
I think my first grade teacher, Miss Lucy Braun, she pushed me to try for I remember having to take some tests, to do some advanced placement kind of thing. I didn't do it though. I didn't pass it or whatever. But she followed me. She always anytime I had a graduation, she would send me a note. And I thought that was pretty, your first grade teacher. That's
very cool.
Special connection that you would have. So.
Yeah. I can relate. My first grade teacher, Miss James, wonderful woman. She was a great teacher. That's an age that sticks with you. Mm-hmm. And It's fun for me. My little boys are entering that phase of education. The oldest is now in kindergarten, but he will be quick to tell you his favorite person in the world. It's not his mom, who he loves, or his grandma, whom he adores, or certainly not me. It's his pre-K teacher, Michelle Sellers, Shell, as he calls her. But at that age, you can get an attachment to a teacher that just lasts a lifetime. So
I'm pretty sure my mom tells me that I cried the last day of kindergarten. I didn't leave, so,
that's great. Well, clearly you have a ton of academic aptitude. As we sit here, it's Dr. Achord, not, were you a great student kind of from the start, or did that come later? Will you tell us about what it was like for you?
I was always a good student until I got to vet school, and then it was hard.
Humbled you a little bit. Law school was the same for us.
Everybody's in your top of the class, and then somebody has to make a bell curve at that point, even though you all came in at the top of your class.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought it was hot stuff. And then you sit next to a kid, and there was a buddy of mine. We ended up playing intramural basketball together, but he literally made a perfect score in his ACT. And I was like, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, that was my high school. There was 3 of my classmates made perfect scores on the ACT.
Oh wow! So did you go to the Louisiana school in Natchitoches? Yes. Tell us about that, because that's a really neat program up there for gifted students. It's in Natchitoches. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a great experience. Really prepared me very well for undergrad, for college. It was great it was stressful moving away at 16. I don't know that my mom was ready for that. I was ready for that, but we did it, and it was really great. Just the teachers were amazing, and the whole living on campus, and it was just a different atmosphere and a very different high school experience that I really enjoyed. Very proud of graduating from there. So
that's impressive. Some of the most impressive people I know, including Angelique Richardson, our dear friend and fellow Rotarian. Mm-hmm. She's kind of always been my benchmark for that place, because we're so close, and she went there when we were in high school, and it's special. It's a really good program, but I know it's tough to get in, and it's very rigorous, right?
Yes, it was. But it also
how did you find out about it, and when did it get on your radar? How did the decision to go come about?
They recruited. I'm pretty sure they had a table set up, and I went home with the brochure and told my parents I was going. So,
very cool. Very cool. How did they react to that? What you guys are a close knit family. What was their reaction when you said, "I'm doing this"?
They said okay, but they weren't happy about it. They had tried to not let me go, but I was kind of bored at Ponchatoula High. So
what was tougher on them? Hearing that from you, that you were leaving in high school at 16 to be, 3-4 hours away, or hearing that you were going into the Army? What was tougher?
I don't know. You'd have to ask my mom which was worse.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking education coming up. We've been talking about kind of the classroom stuff, and you mentioned animals and really being into cats and stuff. What else were you into as a kid? What were your interests, hobbies, etc.?
I did lots of ballet. Felham Ballet School was where I went in Hammond for like from second grade all the way until I went to Louisiana school. But I even came back and did the Nutcracker with Miss Janet and Dawn at they used to do a touch of class, and Felham were the two places that they did their rehearsals. And so yeah.
Did you guys get to perform up there at the big theater in Hammond, or
yeah, the Bonnie Board, yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to go watch the local kids in action there. It's a beautiful production. Well, we're talking local schools. You mentioned Louisiana school. What about the next chapter, college? Where did you go to school, and how did you decide on how to get there?
LSU.
Tigers, go Tigers.
School. So they had a vet school, and it was actually moving closer to home than high school. So that was where I went. I'm really glad I did. It was wonderful. I love my Tigers.
What were your undergraduate studies focus on?
Animal science, and I had a minor in communication studies.
Cool. And so you did LSU for undergrad and vet school, right? So
yes.
how many total years there in Baton Rouge at LSU?
8
oh,
years.
Wow. Yikes.
Yeah. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of vet school. So
okay, cool.
I really enjoyed undergrad. I was in some service organizations and a sorority, and just, I liked undergrad. So.
What were the organizations?
I was in Scotch Guard, which was a service organization for the Army ROTC. And then I was in Sigma Alpha, which was the agricultural sorority. And then, of course, the pre-vet club and some other, just all your other, like student government stuff, like the Ag Association Society and stuff like that. So.
We've got a few more comments here I want to share with you. Rebecca Achord has come on here and says, you are a great friend of animals in Louisiana and a great community. I know it looks, folks, like it says a great community animal, but she goes on in another one, a great community animal advocate. Thank you, Rebecca, for that comment. It's very, very kind and very accurate. Thanks for sharing that. Folks, we are here today with Dr. Kathleen Elstrott Achord, local doctor of veterinary medicine. And we're talking about her pre-vet days, studying animal sciences and veterinary medicine days. Everything I hear about vet school to me screams intensity. It seems like the admissions process is incredibly intense, and it's very much a 3-pointer, not a layup, in that it's a lower percentage shot. It's tough to get in. And then once you get there, it's nose to the grindstone. Am I incorrect? Have I been told right? What's vet school like? And can you kind of walk us through that process? Really starting with I'm sure there are tons of kids out there that love animals and share your childhood dream of becoming a vet one day. What can you do to share with us, that process and kind of what will maybe help them on how they should do it, from the beginning through getting in and then surviving once you're there?
So Dr. French was one of my professors in undergrad. He's a great veterinarian, and he said that veterinary school was like drinking water from a fire hose, and so that pretty much sums it up. It's a lot of information. They also compare it, like doctors go an inch wide, being the human, and a mile deep, so they know everything about the human, and then veterinarians go like a mile wide, all the different species, and an inch deep, so not as in depth on every species, but lots of canine, feline, and horses, cattle, and some pigs, and some exotics. And your national boards cover everything. So I'm sure I had a friend from undergrad. She was in law school at LSU at the same time I was in vet school. We were both pretty miserable together our first year. So I hear law school is no walk in the park either. Oh, I can't hear you, Parker.
I'm sorry, I got muted somehow. I said, yeah, that doesn't sound too fun. I doubt anybody was throwing any keg parties that semester. You guys were in the weeds. Well, one thing I've noticed, because I love how you talk about the inch wide, versus mile wide and deep, because the law can present that contrast too. You can choose to become a general practice attorney, or you can be a specialist. And in my career, in roughly 20 years, I've done both. Now I'm a specialist. I just do injury work and nothing else. And I'm drilling very deep into that one thing. I got to say, I think it was a lot tougher to have to cover a ton. And look, I never covered nearly as many things as you veterinarians need to, right? But I mean, when you're talking about the difference between a large mammal and an exotic bird, if you will, holy crap, that's just totally different worlds that you're living on, right? It's Venus and Mars, and it must be really challenging. How do you start with that broad approach and the boards to cover it all? What's it like career path wise to try to figure out where you want to go? Do you want to be, in a large animals, cattle world, or, specialize in certain kind of pets? I mean, what's the process like for you guys professionally to kind of figure out the direction?
So you start, you take all the same classes. Everybody's in the same classes. You have a few electives like second year, and then you can do some externships. And then third year, you have a few more electives. And then at LSU, we do 15 months of clinical rotations. And that's when you kind of diversify a little. So I actually, my concentration for veterinary school for clinics was food animal medicine. I wanted to be a pig vet. And so I got to do a lot more externships and stuff for large animal. And I also did, at that point, I already was in the Army. And so I did some Army externship time as well. But I did, like, you do learn what you like and what you don't like during this clinical time. And so I think that helps shape which direction you'll go. And I learned that I didn't like Indiana in the winter, so I wasn't going to be a good pig vet.
Right.
And then I was also contracted for the Army, and so I was going wherever they were going to send me, and that was going to be a small animal position most likely.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Army. It's Veterans Day, so first and foremost, thank you for your service. To any veterans out there who may watch this, thank you so much for protecting us and serving us and sacrificing of yourself and your family. That's such a big deal, and I couldn't be more grateful. How did you end up in the Army? When did you kind of decide to go on that path, and what was it like?
I guess I've always been very patriotic. I guess, I don't know, the 9/11 was when I was in high school. We did a big pep rally for the troops that I helped plan, and then I didn't do ROTC in undergrad because there was no guarantee. I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian, and there was no guarantee for an educational delay to go to vet school. So I just decided, I was going to be a veterinarian and never do military. But then when I was in vet school, they came and recruited for the Army Veterinary Corps, which I didn't know existed when I was in undergrad. And so I applied.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it till this moment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The U.S. Army Veterinary Corps is the DoD executive agent for veterinary medicine for the military, for the DoD, for the Department of Defense. The Air Force has veterinarians that do some of their public health mission, but the Army veterinarians serve on Army bases, Air Force bases, Marine bases, and Navy bases, and provide care for the military working dogs, provide public health mission, so food inspection and different things like that. And then we also, a lot of the bases or posts have veterinary clinics on them that you provide low-cost services for active duty and retirees. So.
Okay. So you learn about that, and then you realize, hey, I can do both. I can, both dreams at one time. You're protecting the country through the military, becoming a veterinarian. Let's talk early days of military service, because, I've got a nephew who's in the Army National Guard. And, that means within the last few years, I've watched somebody that I care a lot about, my godson, who's my nephew, go through basic and, just see how intense that is. What was that all like for you? Can you tell us about that?
It was different. I didn't do nearly that much. Coming in as an officer and a doctor, we went to what they called a gentleman's officer basic course. So I don't know how gentlemanly I was, but so all of the health professions, we all went to training together. So nurses, doctors, dentists, we were all together in San Antonio. and did in the summer and did 6 weeks of learning how to be.
You guys did the country club version of it, right?
Yes. I mean, I still went through a gas chamber and slept on a cot with an M16, but I did sleep on a cot and not the floor. So.
Oh, wow. Look, we've got a few more comments, folks. We're here, as you know, with Dr. Kathleen Elstrott Achord, and a few more people have chimed in. Carolyn Kane says she's honored to work with you, and Tangy Animal Friends is partner with you for low-cost spay and neutering. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because that sounds like a neat project. That's clearly great for our community.
Yeah, so Carolyn is from the parish, and I have several volunteers that are from St. Bernard, came either before or after Katrina, and I have to say that they're some of the hardest workers and most giving people that I have surrounding me. I couldn't do what I do without them. So Carolyn and Sherry, and just too many to mention probably, and I'm going to miss you, and then people are going to be upset. So Tangy Animal Friends is the nonprofit organization in the community. They were, back in the day, they were Friends of the Shelter, so they're DBA, Tangy Animal Friends. They are a nonprofit. They helped found our parish animal shelter, because before 1998, we did not have a parish animal shelter, and there was just...
Really?
Yeah. Wow. And so what do you do when you find a stray dog? It's the same problem that Livingston Parish is having right now. You find a stray dog, there's nowhere to bring it. Same thing with St. Helena doesn't have a parish shelter. So
Livingston Parish doesn't have a shelter? I mean, they have over 100,000 people.
Livingston Parish does not have a parish-wide shelter. They have Denham Springs, if you're in the city limits of Denham Springs, and then the township of Livingston or whatever it is, the village.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah. Wow. So our parish didn't have one. Friends of the Shelter forced or encouraged, parish government to create a shelter. So at least you had a place to bring them, whether that outcome was good or not, but at least you had some place to bring them, that they weren't suffering on the streets anymore. So now today, Tangy Animal Friends is trying to reduce the overpopulation that we still have in our parish by offering low-cost spay and neuter, and they are going to partner with me at Cat Vet, and we're going to offer low-cost spay and neuter for anybody that's a veteran on any type of disability or government assistance. You can, I believe they set the prices at $35 for a cat and $65 for a dog. And you can message them on their Facebook page and book an appointment. And it comes with a rabies vaccine and a microchip with free registration for life.
That's great. That's wonderful. Carolyn, if you're still listening, if you wouldn't mind, if you please post the link there in the comments so that folks that may be watching this and interested in those services can get there. And of course, if you're busy, we'll try to circle back and do it after the show. But that's really neat. We have a few other comments here. Alexis Chasson says, "Hey, Dr. Cat."
That's one of my amazing technicians at Terrebonne Parish Animal Shelter.
Oh, neat. Well, you got a fan club here, and yeah, I love your photo, by the way, Alexis. Beautiful. Yeah, that's exciting. It looks like a neat photo. And Justin Sharp has a thanks here. He says, "Thank you, doctor, for rescuing and returning his dog Max that jumped the gate." So, Justin, thank you for tuning in again. It's good to hear from you. Folks, we're getting so many wonderful comments here. Please keep them coming. This is just great. And, oh, wait, Mary Beth Crevetto, our dear friend, says you're doing great work in Ponchatoula.
You taught me lots of good English that I can't do anymore.
Mary Beth, we were chatting about you at Rotary today. Will was telling folks about how every time I would make an A in your class, you'd make sure he would make an A 1 point higher. And maybe we'll earn that. I don't know, but maybe you just wanted to dig at me. But yeah, here we are 20 plus years later talking about our old teacher, Mary Beth Crevetto, who's, speaking of doing great things, she's doing great things at Ponchatoula Junior High School. Definitely. We shared, I know Ponchatoula Junior High has the strawberry basketball tournament coming up, Strawberry Classic or Strawberry Cup, something like that. So we shared that on our Ponchatoula.com Facebook page today. We're here, folks, with Dr. Achord talking about veterinary medicine. You just mentioned Cat Vet and this partnership that serves the community with low-cost spay and neutering. Tell us about your clinic. Cat Vet is so neat. We just saw the sign come up this year. People on Main Street are like, "What's up?" Tell us about this, what you do and your passion.
I'm going to cycle back to Mary Beth and talk about the junior high real quick.
Yeah, please do.
Miss Vicki Dirks, she's a teacher. The Tula Cares Club at the junior high has like picked.
Oh, what a cool organization. Mary Beth told us about that, I think, when she came on the show. Yeah, please. This is a great club.
Yeah. So, well, Miss Vicki adopted 3 kittens from me one day. And so she came for one. She left with 3.
I know she's an overachiever. I've seen her win Teacher of the Year before, but wow, yes. 3 adoptions in one day.
Right. So
overachiever, and I would say patient husband was probably part of that mix too.
And then she has started with the Tula Cares. They did a fundraiser for us. They did like a walk, and they walked the dogs, and they're gonna start coming to the clinic on a few Fridays and walking dogs and cleaning litter boxes, washing dishes, playing with kittens. And yeah, we're just really happy to have this partnership. And then she also invited us to the Ponchatoula Junior High football games, and we bring some puppies that are available, and the kids get to walk them around, and it's just fun.
Very cool. And, you know, if there's a little boy or girl there who dreams of becoming a doctor like you, they get to see up close and personal what it's like. So that's really neat. What a great opportunity. Well, that's cool. Tell us more about the clinic, though. You know, tell us about the business and kind of why you decided to strike out on your own and kind of what you do.
Yeah. So I guess, so after I was out of the Army, and then I came back to Ponchatoula, and I worked at Ponchatoula Animal Hospital for 5 years. And I was really, though, into rescue and shelter medicine, and really wanted to do more surgery. And so I ended up doing some relief work at some different shelters, and I went to Companion Animal Alliance in Baton Rouge and worked there for 2 months for covering one of their veterinarians' maternity leaves. And then I got the job at Terrebonne Parish Animal Shelter, which is down in Houma. And it's a long commute, but it's an amazing shelter with a high save rate, and it has amazing employees, amazing director, and they do just wonderful things for their community. And it's a privilege to be a part of it. And the commute is killer, though. So we ended up doing a low-cost spay-neuter clinic at the current Cat Vet location last December, and it went really well. And I love downtown Ponchatoula. I was in the chamber and did all sorts of stuff with them for many years, and I just love our little downtown. And so the idea that I could have a storefront with kittens available for adoption in the storefront for people to look at and play through the glass, and then also provide a service to our community with low-cost spay neuter. So that's what we've been working for this year, and we're not advertising yet, but we are offering low-cost spay neuter in addition to the Tangy Animal Friends partnership. And so I'm there part-time, and because of the hurricane, I'm still down at Terrebonne helping them.
Let's talk about that, because when you mentioned the community of Houma, Terrebonne Parish, man, we got whacked up here. And I've mentioned before on this show, every day when I pull out of my driveway, your whole side of the street is one blue roof after another, but man, we didn't get whacked like them. What's it like down there? How are they coming back? What can you tell us about our neighbors to the south?
They are resilient. They're very, they don't like to, they want to do it themselves. They definitely do. Like when we were giving out free food, we were collecting it here in Ponchatoula, Cat Vet, and my front porch. And I was hauling down, I think lots of people have seen me drive my really old Suburban. It would be full of dog food and cat food. And we were bringing it down there for them to hand out at their distribution centers. They had about 8 of them throughout the parish, and the need was very great. The people didn't necessarily want to take it, but it's pretty devastating down there. They're coming back, but it's going to be a long process. And the shelter itself, we had over 300 dogs come in 1 month, which is just, it's more than we could fit. And we were
how big of a team is handling that many dogs in a month?
So we had a lot of outside help. The shelter itself has about 20 employees. But we had, there were several outside organizations, IFAW being one of the big ones, and the ASPCA, and American Humane. American Humane came in and set up a temporary shelter, and so we had, to do our normal sick and spay neuter and medications and heartworm treatments and all that at our main shelter, and then we're also walking over and checking on driving over to the temporary shelter and walking through all those dogs and making sure they were okay too. So it was a lot of dogs. It was not that many cats, but it was a lot of dogs that needed help after the storm. And we still have a bunch available for adoption. I think they're like $25 for the whole month of November. So.
And what's the best way to get in touch if folks are interested in adopting? What's the best way to make a point of contact?
So okay. Terrebonne and Cat Vet, we both post pretty much everything on our Facebook page and on Pet Finder. So. Okay, cool. Very cool.
So we're talking about all the animal needs following the storm here, right? What's a day in the life like, say pre-storm, post-storm, and what do you see as the path back to a quote unquote normal? I'm just kind of curious about how much of the dust has settled and where you see it going in the future.
As far as at the actual animal shelter in Terrebonne, it's pretty well settled.
Okay.
I think some employees have gotten back into their homes and have gotten repairs done. Other ones haven't. Like Alexis that commented earlier, she's still living with a relative because she had a baby literally during the hurricane, and so she can't live in her home how it is because she got somebody's carport came through her bedroom roof.
Oh, yikes! Whoa.
It's a lot of damage. Most of the employees that's who I know, and so that's who I can talk about. But
right,
a lot of them are having to, lots of damage and lots of rebuilding. Well, I believe, it's going to take several years for them to fully come back all the way. Something like 17,000 jobs lost. So.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you are so impressive in that you've accomplished so much at such a young age. We were talking Rotary earlier. You're one of the leaders of our club, both formally on the board as well as informally, just getting the work done. And we all turn to you, as somebody we trust to make big decisions and do things. Who are some of the people that mentored you and helped you get where you are today? I mean, who have you learned from to become this, young superwoman that we're talking to here today?
Well, for Rotary, my grandfather was in Rotary. And so but in New Orleans, and so I always knew of Rotary. And then Dad joined Mr. AJ, invited him, and then I don't exactly remember who put me up, but it was. I think I was coming to meetings before I even was fully out of the Army and moved back to Ponchatoula. I know I volunteered at Strawberry Festival before I was technically a member, and so
we got some free labor out of you before you were used paying member. Yeah, nice work, Danny. If you're watching, I know you were behind that probably.
So yeah, I think
the Rotary could not make it through a Strawberry Festival if we members did not draft our family into it, kicking and screaming.
True. I make Jason come ever since I met him. Make him go serve beer.
Let me interrupt. Speaking of Jason, let's talk about that. Tell us about your love story. Clearly I see you guys, you talk about filling up the Suburban with stuff. He seems to be smiling and supportive and, with you 100% of the way on all of these adventures to save animals and whatnot. How'd the two of you meet? Just give us a little background on your love story.
On eHarmony.
Nice. Great. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So we went on our first date to Tommy's Pizza, and it lasted like 4 hours. And
I'm digging that. Tommy's, you had me at eHarmony, but Tommy's is the clincher here. Boy.
Yep. I made him drive in. Yeah. I wasn't going to go meet him any further than him. And then cool. He's from Prairieville, and I made him move up here when we got married.
Yeah, you basically said, look, I'll compromise by moving out of Mom and Dad's house next door, Not I'll meet you in the town in between. It's not like Livingston Parish is in between here and Ascension. It's you're coming here next door to Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
This block of South 8th. I love it.
I bought that house. I bought the house next door to my parents when I got out the Army.
Cool.
Before I got out the Army. So it just happened to be on sale for the 2 years prior to me buying it, and no one had bought it. And so Ray Kent used to live there. She was very active in the community.
Yes, very well known.
In St. Joseph and at North Oaks. She was like volunteer of the year for, I don't know, ever for North Oaks. And
big time person.
She was like my pseudo grandmother, if you will, because she was there the entire time I grew up. So it's really neat to be able to buy her house.
That's one of the neat things about Ponchatoula. I love the term pseudo grandparent, because we had the same thing at the Layrisson house with Winks Vineyard, the old retired principal who lived next door to us. And it was just a perfect situation. We didn't have grandfathers. He didn't have grandkids. And he was every inch of my grandpa, my whole childhood. And that's neat that you had that experience and got to move into that house. And here we are. Speaking of great grandfathers, Cheney Phillips, or Papa C, as he's known to his grandkids, including my nieces and nephews, he's chimed in here to say he loves learning about the interesting local people on Ponchatoula Live. Thank you, Cheney, for saying that. I'm so glad that you are now one of the interesting local people of Ponchatoula, because you've been a dear friend to our family and one of Dad's favorite people in the world forever. So that's kind of cool. And speaking of friends, we've got another friend of yours here, Kathleen. Dana Cash-John Kirsch says she knew you in the 5th grade, that you would become a vet. And that's pretty impressive. Were you guys classmates at St. Joe? How do you and Dana know one another?
Yeah, that's how we know each other. We were in the same class at St.
That's cool. Dana, you've got such a beautiful family. Speaking of serving the community, you and your husband do such a great job. I'm so glad our little kindergartners are classmates, and y'all just do a great thing for our local community. So thank you for watching today. Folks, if you're just jumping in, we're here with Dr. Kathleen Elstrott Achord. We've been talking about her business, Cat Vet, her service down in Terrebonne Parish, all the great things she's doing in the community, veterinary medicine, etc. Kathleen, it strikes me that someone with your credentials, you're bright, you're educated, you've got this background serving our country, various communities, etc. You could live anywhere in the world. And you kind of alluded to earlier Ponchatoula calling you home, but let me just put you on the spot. Why Ponchatoula? What specifically was it that drew you back here? Because, you could make more money, find more cats, whatever, probably in bigger.
I don't need more cats. We don't need
maybe
more
with a cat, capital. I don't know. But my point here is you really could go anywhere in the world, places where the weather's better, places where the view might be better, etc. Certainly where the money's better. But you chose to return here home, and I'm just kind of curious why. What would you say to our viewers if they ask you why Ponchatoula?
A family. I mean, I was in basically Destin, Florida, where I was stationed when I was in the Army.
Oh, yeah, only the best beaches in Southern America. I mean,
right.
Wow. And you came back for Beatico, so yeah. Which is beautiful. I love Beatico, but wow, you must love your mama if you came back from Destin.
Yeah, so family does that to you. And I got really lucky. I mean, Larry Ernst at Ponchatoula Animal Hospital, Dr. Ernst, he's also a veteran. And
great man.
Yes, I learned a lot from him in the 5 years I worked for him. He was, but I remember, so I in person dropped off resumes, to Ponchatoula, because I was trying to find something as close as possible. I was just trying to kind of get within an hour of home, but I was lucky enough. I remember it must have been slow that afternoon, but he came and chatted with me in the lobby for a good 20 minutes or so, and ended up getting a job.
Dr. Ernst is a great man. His daughter Sarah and I went to school together, and we don't see each other that much anymore. Our kids are different ages, but she and her husband David are dear friends. And there's few people that I respect more in the area than him, and really that whole family. His sister Miss Linda was like one of my extra St. Joe moms growing up. I was buddies with her sons Eric and Brad and Snapper and their daughter Leah. And that Ernst family it's one of the best in town. So thank you for sharing a little bit about them. You mentioned liking downtown Ponchatoula specifically, and you've located your business there. And if I recall, your mom had a store there for years too, right? So
next door in the Chamber building.
Yeah, right. So right there, same block, Pine Street. So you guys literally kind of go back decades with downtown Ponchatoula. And I guess my question here is kind of, what's your feeling about the direction of downtown Ponchatoula? because, things are changing some, and in many ways it's just so great and so neat. But, what do you think about downtown Ponchatoula and where it's going, and what would you like to see for it in the years to come?
I think, just continued all of our events. Everybody talks about, if you like not from Ponchatoula, or even if you are from Ponchatoula and you come to our events, we have that very small town feel, and
right.
It makes you, there's nothing, you can fill up your entire social calendar with the downtown development events and the chamber events and Rotary, and you're good. You're full on everything you could possibly do in town.
Right,
and you go
right.
through and listen to some live music. I mean, you're set. So if we, always increased foot traffic increases adoption. Mm-hmm. So I'm all for that now.
Yeah, cool. Well, what is it, when you think about your profession, walk us through what does a day in the life look like for a veterinarian, of your specialty?
I'm not specialized in anything, but for what I do as a shelter veterinarian, usually wake up to a message or two of somebody found some kittens or a dog on the side of the road and wants to know if we can take it in, and we put them all in foster homes except for the cute ones that are in the front lobby playing that you can walk by and see. So
right.
If we don't have space, we can't take them in, unfortunately. So you have to learn to say no as a veterinarian, which is very difficult to do because you want to save all the animals, but you can't. So
yeah, that's got to be the hardest part.
Yeah,
of the whole,
and then if it's a terrebone day, then I'm trying to leave early. I usually end up at Cat Vet medicating something or doing something, and then driving the hour-and-a-half commute down to Terrebonne, stop for coffee usually, because you have to have some coffee. And then I get there and they have everything ready and prepped for surgeries, and we do surgeries for about 4 hours, spays, neuters, dentals, whatever needs to be done. Yesterday, I had a dog with a few tumors and it was getting adopted. So we want to try to make it as healthy as possible for the adopters. And so we took off all the tumors before it got adopted. And then we have what we call a vet checklist. And so we print that out, and I walk and I do rounds in the shelter and check on any of the animals that might be not feeling well, and prescribe them medications and type in all those notes, computer work.
Yeah.
Because you never can escape that.
There's no job on earth these days, it seems, it doesn't include computer work, right?
Right. And then you drive home, and I go back to Cat Vet and do some more.
Oh, wow.
And then I go home.
Well, a day in the life is a long day in your case,
Yes.
That's a lot on your plate. One thing I'm always curious about when I talk to folks about what they do, especially with a job like yours, is kind of what makes you sad, what breaks your heart. I'm sensing that maybe it's the cats you can't get to help because there's a greater need for your services than hours in the day and resources and, foster parents, to provide it. Am I off base, or is there something else? But, what about your job maybe makes you want to cry sometime, if anything?
Yeah, the ones can't, definitely that, when people have to surrender their animal and it's not really their choice, and a lot of people, I probably was the same way, you're mad at the person that has to give up their animal, but a lot of times circumstances changes beyond their control, they lost their entire house in a hurricane. And
right.
They literally cannot, they have to find a roof for their kids and their wife, and they can't find anywhere that'll rent to them with their 3 cats or whatever it is. I also always feel really sad when we get lots of requests. I don't know why, but when somebody dies and no one in the family will take over the care of the animals, and they want to surrender them, and that kind of breaks my heart that nobody,
Absolutely.
That little old lady loved her cats, and no one in the family will take them in. It really, that upsets me.
Yeah, that's really hard. What, kind of renews your faith in the world and the system? What really brightens your day about what you do?
adoptions. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than like somebody bringing in their kid for that's all they wanted for Christmas or their birthday or whatever it was, or it's just they made good grades and they now get to have a kitten, or they've been begging for the puppy for years and they're finally giving in, or they just want to add to their pack because they fell in love with whatever was in the window, or they were at the farmer's market. And yeah, adoptions and those adoption pictures make it all worthwhile.
That's so cool. Well, look, as I told you before, you came on the show, I wouldn't keep you too late because I know you've had a long day, lots of travel. So, we've tried to cover your personal background, your career, but, before we wrap things up, as we inch toward the close here, what else might be on your mind, on your heart? What else should our viewers know about you? What else would you like to share? Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
I mean, always spay and neuter and adopt, don't shop, and thank all the veterans for their service. Really appreciate it. I didn't do much, took care of some working dogs, but lots of people did a lot more.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you, veterans, for your service. We owe you so much, more than we could ever return. And just hear this sincere thank you from former captain and Dr. Kathleen Elstrott Achord, one of our local heroes here. And anyway, folks, it's been a wonderful time to get to know this person, to get to hear my neighbor share what she does day to day, and I know your parents are really proud of you, Kathleen, and with good reason. You're a wonderful person, a great doctor, a great community servant. So thank you for doing what you always do, which is share with our community of yourself, and today by sharing your time and sharing your story. So to the rest of you, thank you. We will be back here same time, same place next week. Tune in for Ponchatoula Live, 5 o'clock on Thursdays. Take care.